Here's a fact about The Lighthouse. The Wikipedia article for The Lighthouse, I'm going somewhere with this, work with me, says that The Lighthouse is a 2019 film directed and produced by Robert Eggers, from a screenplay co-authored with his brother Max Eggers. It stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as turmoil 19th century lighthouse keepers stranded at a remote New England outpost by a violent storm. The film has defied categorization in media, and interpretations of it range among horror film, psychological thriller, or character study among others. Now, the thing I want you to pay attention to is that last sentence about the film's genre. You may ask, why did you use the entire paragraph instead of just one sentence? Well, worry not, my dear facts about truthers, as today I will explain how that sentence is wrong because The Lighthouse is unquestionably a comedy. I will start out by analyzing aspects of the film shown throughout its runtime, and then I will talk about a handful of scenes to explain what makes them funny. This also means spoilers ahead. Alright, let's light this house. The film is shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio and presents itself in black and white. This is clearly meant to harken back to the monocolor films of cinema's past. And what do you think of when you think of black and white cinema? Besides the Universal monster movies or Psycho or Eraserhead or Night of the Living Dead or 12 Angry Men or It's a Wonderful Life or Steamboat Willie or Doctor Strangelove or Clerks or Spy vs. Spy or The Lighthouse, Sunset Boulevard, Ed Wood or Citizen Kane? Well, you think of none other than Charlie Chaplin. A well-known filmmaker and actor known for his very silly filmography. And while The Lighthouse's sense of humor is more dry than Chaplin's, it is clearly meant to mimic Chaplin's filmography. Similar to another modern-day black and white film, Hundreds of Beavers, which takes its own spin on the foundation set by Chaplin, focusing more on the whimsy. I guess we're in a renaissance of this kind of movie. Next, let's talk about the actors that appear in the movie. This will be quick because by design, The Lighthouse doesn't have many characters, therefore there are not a lot of actors to discuss. First up is Willem Dafoe, who is known for some silly roles. You might recognize some of them, such as Green Goblin, Detective Kimball, and my personal favorite, Chopling. All hilarious roles. Alongside him is Robert Pattinson. This was before The Batman, so his most notable role prior to being in The Lighthouse was Edward from Twilight. Now, Twilight isn't a comedy, however, it is a so-bad-it's-good film, like the part when Pattinson has gone on record saying he hates Twilight, which is really based of him. So there is an inherent joke to this movie because no matter what, this film is about a beef between Green Goblin and Edgar Twilight. The last actor I want to talk about is Sully Siegel, an actor with a real actual IMDb page, known for his roles in The Shallows and Barb and Star Go to Vista del Mar. Apparently the Skull is talented. Apparently while filming The Shallows, Blake Lively went to it for acting advice. I mean, it sounds like bullshit, but hey, it was on IMDb, so it can't be wrong. Now let's start talking about the film itself. Both Wake and Winslow, that's their names by the way, are constantly farting throughout the film. Wake is even introduced by farting in Winslow's face. This is a constant throughout the film. In fact, there's a compilation online of every fart in the film. Hopefully, I don't need to explain the comedy behind farts. It's a staple of funny business. When Whoopi Goldberg invented a cushion, it was one designed to fart. The first ever joke recorded in history was a fart joke. It is a bit weird for this R-rated movie aimed at adults to have fart jokes. Usually that's reserved for media aimed at kids, but luckily the film makes it work. Throughout the first half of the film, Winslow is terrorized by a specific seagull that he threw a lump of coal at, which knocked its eye out. So we know that this is the same exact specific bird that is in the rest of the scenes. Once again, wonderfully played by Sully Siegel. This is simply a classic comedy routine of an animal bothering a human or other animal. However, this trope is subverted when Winslow manages to grab the bird and bash its head in. Unfortunately, this activates another comedic trope known as play stupid games, win stupid prizes, as a storm brews in response. Likewise, The Mermaid is also a take on a classic comedic trope of the woman, you know, the sexy woman who terrorizes the main character with her sexiness or whatever, I don't know, I like men, whatever. Another thing to note are the very slow scenes which show Winslow trying to tend to the lighthouse. Now, manual labor isn't that interesting, so why does the film show it this often? Well, that's because Winslow constantly fails at his job. A good example is when a seagull dies in the cistern because Winslow gets punished for being an idiot and leaving it open. Come on, dullard. And this is supposed to be funny because... Hey man. Not every joke is gonna land. There's also the bizarre things that both the characters are attracted to. The mermaid statue that Winslow finds also has an inherent comedy as he becomes so down bad, he straight up jorks it to the statue. It's like a ceiling titty before those were a thing. Wait, were they already a thing in the 1890s? Similarly, Wake has a weird infatuation with the giant light, even going so far as to have intercourse with it, I think? I don't know, I think that's what's going on, but I'm not sure. This joke is also easy to explain. There are various stories online about people being attracted to weird things such as cars, and I don't want to finish the rest of the sentence, but the point is, when you see someone like that, you have to do the morally correct thing and laugh at them. Similarly to Winslow and Wake's strange paraphilias, these are inherently goofy moments meant to get a chuckle out of you. The last running gag is the foghorn. What's so funny about the foghorn? Well, have you ever tried to watch a movie while also listening to one of those hours of silences occasionally broken up by meme sound effect videos? Well, I totally recommend it. It makes bad movies better and good movies funny. But the foghorn seems to sound off at random times even when there's clearly no fog. The foghorn is simply this idea except actually put in the movie itself. A random foghorn going off is pretty funny. The last reoccurring gag is Thomas Wake's clearly fake voice. Winslow even acknowledges it by calling it a goddamn parody. This is very similar to how a lot of cartoons will have their voice actors put on a goofy, exaggerated voice. Did you know every character in the original Looney Tunes was voiced by one guy? Now, The Lighthouse isn't a cartoon, unless it was animated very realistically and nobody bothered to tell me, but the fact that Willem Dafoe is putting on a cartoon voice is very telling. Next, we're going to analyze a few scenes which showcase the Lighthouse's sense of humor. These are only a few scenes, but trust me, the entire movie is like this. This first scene starts with both characters progressively shouting what at each other, and Winslow starts to yell about wanting a steak, which leads into them literally arguing about Wake's lobster like a married couple. Then the film scratches to a halt as Wake puts a curse on Winslow that, and I kid you not, takes 2 minutes of this 109-minute film. During this entire speech, Wake does not blink or fart once. And after that entire ramble, Winslow simply says, "Okay, fine, I like your lobster." I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If I said this was a scene in a scrapped Spongebob episode, you'd believe me. The next scene is this one where Tom spills his beans to Tom, and in response, he just disappears, and the words, "Why'd you spill ya beans?" echo throughout the lighthouse. The comedy comes from the choice of words. In a more serious movie, Wake would have probably said something along the lines of, "Why'd you tell on yourself?" But instead, John Lighthouse chose to have him complain about spilling his beans. And then this happens. Once again, this is literally just a Spongebob scene. For our last scene, let's take a look at a scene earlier in the film, where Winslow is tediously dragging a massive oil canister up a long flight of stairs. Once he gets there, Wake calls him an idiot for not using the smaller canister and tells him to take the massive one down. This is another example of a scene involving Winslow fucking up a task in a comedic way. The next scene has Tom arguing about who's crazy. They have a back and forth, and then they decide to create a concoction of honey and something else, and I think it would just be better to show you what happens. Though I am using the French dub for background footage, but trust me, the dialogue doesn't matter here. Finally, I want to talk about the penultimate scene, when Winslow finally gets up to the lighthouse and Winslow starts to laugh or scream. The captions flip up between the two, so I'm not sure. As the scene goes on, the film and Winslow's noises start distorting. This is literally a deep fried meme, and then he drops and proceeds to tumble down the stairs for a comedic amount of time. Now, I've explained why The Lighthouse is a comedy, but I also want to take time to explain why the other suggested genres don't really fit The Lighthouse's mold. First up is horror. There is a case to be made here. There are certainly some creepy moments. However, sometimes comedy can be creepy for the sake of the bit. If you've ever seen one of those top 60 scariest moments in kid shows videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, if this is a horror movie, why is Willem Dafoe asking why I spilled my beans? Next up is psychological thriller. You could also make a very solid case for this one. Watching as Winslow slowly loses his mind as he performs monotonous tasks day after day while Wake gets to spend all night doing it with the light. It sounds like a pretty solid interpretation, I just don't agree with it. Another potential genre that has been proposed is that the film is a romance between Howard and Wake, which is so silly. They're both shown to be attracted to the woman, if you count the light as a woman, which Wake certainly does, so they can't be romantic at all. Now you could say the genre transcends genre, and that it is simply a fool's errand to try and pigeonhole it to a genre, and to that I say, nerd. Every single piece of art has to fit into some kind of genre, otherwise how would people be able to enjoy it? Sorry. Now to close out the video, I want to propose a theory as to why The Lighthouse is like this, because I like doing it. It's good to think deeper into the media you consume. Now, I've been comparing The Lighthouse to various comedies. Most notably, SpongeBob SquarePants, and this is not lost on me. Despite the clearly colorful style of SpongeBob being very different from The Lighthouse's coloring, there are a lot of similarities. Even taking away the very similar sense of humor, there's also the nautical theming. So here's what I'm thinking. Are you guys familiar with the Ren and Stimpy Adult Party cartoon? If not, allow me to fill you in. The Ren and Stimpy Adult Party cartoon was a continuation of Ren and Stimpy aimed at adults. They even got John Ren and Stimpy back for it. Unfortunately, it is the most vile, disgusting, gross, vile, vomit-inducing I have ever seen. But the reason I bring this up is because there are rumors of a SpongeBob Adult Party cartoon that was scrapped after the failure of the Ren and Stimpy version. Now, assuming that these rumors are true, it could be possible, bear with me here, that The Lighthouse is a repurposed SpongeBob Adult Party cartoon script. This sounds crazy, but let me try to convince you. Imagine this is a SpongeBob episode. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs travel to a remote island to open up a weird lighthouse-themed spin-off of the Krusty Krab. From there, Mr. Krabs has SpongeBob do all the work while Krabs insists on spending all night up with the light. When they're almost done, SpongeBob takes his anger out on a seagull, which causes a storm, which means SpongeBob and Krabs are trapped on the island. As this goes on, SpongeBob and Krabs slowly spiral, and then, at the end, SpongeBob finally sees what's in the lighthouse and he is greeted with Mr. Krabs' stash of money. Disappointed, SpongeBob proceeds to fall down the stairs, ending the episode. Doesn't this sound like a SpongeBob episode? And if you don't believe me, take a look at this scene. Does that look familiar? Yes, it is the Krusty Krab. But now that I think about it, have you guys seen my video, The Disturbing Decline of SpongeBob? If you haven't, you should. After watching the rest of this one, of course, but for those unaware, the episode SpongeBob and Random Land had the first Gonsley anomaly, which aired in 2019. The same year that The Lighthouse was released. Here's my theory. When the SpongeBob Adult Party cartoon was being developed, John Lighthouse pitched a script for it. However, when it was cancelled, John Lighthouse sat on it for years before turning it into a feature film. However, if this theory is correct, then SpongeBob itself was never cursed by Gonsley, and it was actually the Adult Party cartoon, and The Lighthouse was actually what set him off. If this is true, then John Lighthouse should be blamed for the Gonsley incidents, and should be shunned from the industry for his negligence. Thanks for watching Facts About Truthers. If you liked the video, like the video, watch The Disturbing Decline of SpongeBob SquarePants, and subscribe to the Litter channel. Next time we will be talking about the worst documentary ever.